No. Welcome back. I am a little under the weather, so maybe try to keep this brief, but if I start ranting, I start ranting. This is also a very late upload. I got really busy. I wasn't able to make the video in time for New Comic Book Wednesday, but I'm always late. This is just the next week over, so it's a little later than I'm usually late. But let's just go over last week's reads and then what I got for New Comic Book Day. And then since it's nearing the end of the month, probably won't be another last week's reads. It'll probably be last month's reads, a February recap. And then I will probably have a, March reading list. Maybe some more videos if I have some time. I'm trying to figure out a better schedule to do these videos. For now, this is sort of working. I'm late, but it's sort of working. So let's go over everything I read last week. To start off, we have DCKO number 4. This is the penultimate issue of the series. Gearing up to being the end. There was a bit of weirdness with the Absolute Trinity coming in. I wasn't sure how I felt about them coming in, especially since they haven't officially all met in their Absolute Universe. I know Batman and Wonder Woman have met in their respective series. They just barely met. They just met for the first time. It literally just happened. So it was weird in this issue when they kind of seem to already know each other. And I wonder if this is going to have some kind of ramifications in the Absolute Universe down the line, or they'll just never address it and just, they know each other, they know the mainline versions of themselves, and then we move on and just pretend like that's just that. I also wasn't expecting a lot of stuff to happen in here. It was very weird. This event is getting weirder and weirder. I feel like this event is really just more of a stepping stone to whatever they want to do after this. It's just their excuse to change up the universe a little bit to get to what they want to do later. I was fully expecting Superman to be the winner at the end of this, especially when Scott Snyder repeatedly says at the heart of this is a Superman event. I guess it could still be in effect. There's one more issue after this, one more final issue, so we'll have to see. But for now, Lex Luthor actually ends up winning, quote unquote. So it's him versus Darkseid in the next issue. I'm sure that'll be messed up and tripped up. I mean, that bracket for the tournament is all kinds of messed up at this point. Immortal Legend number 6. This is the final issue of Immortal Legends, and this series was written by Kyle Higgins. I read Radiant Black, Volume 1 and 2 a couple years ago. I read New 52 Nightwing, which I didn't like either of those, and I don't really like this one. I think, like the other two that Kyle Higgins wrote that I read, it has a lot of cool ideas, it has a lot of cool moments. There's just a certain vibe I get from the writing style that's very much like checking boxes. If that makes any sense. It doesn't really feel like it wants to dive into any of the ideas it presents. It seems to just kind of throw these ideas at you and say, look at this, look how cool this is, and then look at this other thing, look how cool this is. Here's an epic moment, here's this crazy moment, but I want to know how these characters feel. I kind of want them to stop and slow down a little bit. Who are these characters? Why should I care about them? What is this world? Why should I care about this world? It feels like a really weird problem of there's not enough exposition in his writing. I don't know how else to explain it, but besides the fact that it just feels like there was an outline that was written that has checkboxes, and each time you flip the page, it's another checkbox being ticked. So that's probably my main issue with Kyle Higgins' writing. There's nothing really bad. It's more of a preference thing, obviously, so I can't really say that it's an awful book. But if you are interested in stuff like this, if this is kind of something that is your vibe, I think you would like it. It's just kind of a personal taste for me. Cyclops, number 1. I have not been keeping up with a lot of Marvel stuff. I'm really behind on just the Marvel Universe in general. Personally, I think the Marvel Universe is a little harder to get into, and it gets harder and harder as the years go by. There's not really a lot of good stepping off points. I think, though, this Cyclops series does a good job at kind of ignoring what's going on with the X-Men and just having Cyclops go onto a side quest. This is essentially a Cyclops side quest now I'm thinking about it. So I don't know if this is really something exciting to read. I think it's more of here's a short story about Scott Summers than really here's this really big, nice, extravagant story about Scott Summers. It could be a nice character study. We'll see down the line. This is only the first issue. I think I'm going to try to keep reading this one just because I am interested in the rest of the series. I think it has a interesting start. I think there's something that could be blossomed from this, so to speak. Mark Spector, Moon Knight. This is one of those first issues that I feel like the second issue is more of the start of the series, and the first issue is more of a prelude. This is Jed MacKay. He's been writing Moon Knight for a long time, and they relaunch his book all the time. I have the first 3 volumes of his Moon Knight run, the first time he started writing Moon Knight. So I might just go back and read those, because I haven't yet. I don't think that I will keep reading this series, specifically just because I don't know if the vibe is really what I'm looking for, and I think I would feel better with the like prior context of the other Moon Knight stuff that he's written. The next Batman Second Son, this one is also like kind of a prelude type of deal. I don't remember the context of how this book was released, but this is definitely more of like get to know Jace Fox, get to know his situation, who he is, get kind of a feel for the vibe of what his character is and where he's coming from before he becomes like his version of Batman. Most of the reason to say that is because he doesn't actually become Batman in this book at all. Like it ends with him finding the bat suit. So I don't know if I can recommend it as like a good jumping off point for if you want to know about Jace Fox as Batman, but it's definitely a good jumping off point if you want to know about Jace Fox as a character, which if you're interested in Jace, definitely just start here. I mean, you get like kind of the gist of what's going on. It does kind of go through a lot of good stuff. The only problem I have with it is the way Luke Fox is written. He's kind of like a jerk. Like he's really kind of really bitter. And I don't know if Luke is like that normally. There's not a lot of Luke in Batman comics or in comics in general, so I actually don't know what his character is like. But he's really bitter in this. It's very much like Prodigal Son, like that kind of short story. Like that's basically the entire vibe of this. It's like the prodigal son returns. You know, I've been interested in this character since they introduced him during Infinite Frontier, Future State era. I never got into his books at the time, but I'm starting now since I've had this book for a while. I think I have to read I Am Batman next, and then I can read those Future State Batman issues or the Justice League. But after reading this, like I think he's actually a really interesting character, and I'm surprised like more people aren't talking about him or he's not used more. As far as I know, he's like the Batman of New York now, which is pretty interesting. I wonder how New York looks like in DC. It would be nice to see more of him because I think he's actually a really good character. I think there's a lot to do with him. He's got a huge window of like potential. I think it'd be cool to see him team up with other Batman related characters or other characters in DC in general. It would be cool to see him be a part of a team, leading a team. I just think that there is just so much you could do with Jace. Like his character is actually just like ripe with potential. They don't actually explain why his name is Jace in the book. And that's my only issue because he goes from like Tim to Jace. And it's just kind of, in my mind, reminiscent of Tim Drake and Jason Todd. So I think that's a little weird. They do hint at in this book that there's a very specific reason why he chose the name Jace and why he changed his name, but they don't explain why, so maybe that explanation is in I Am Batman. JLA Tower of Babel. This one has also been on my bookshelf for a long time. I only just now got around to reading it. It's kind of the inspiration for that animated Justice League Doom movie, and there's a lot of differences with it, of course. It's actually really interesting when you read this back and then you kind of watch the movie. This book is definitely more comic booky. It's like got more of like the Silver Age kind of vibe to it. I don't think this was Silver Age era, but in that general like, oh, it's more ridiculous, you know? It gets more extravagant. Justice League Doom kind of slims down the story a lot. You know, the villains are different. The actual weaknesses that are used against them are a lot different as well, which I thought was probably the most interesting part, especially because there's a different Justice League kind of roster here as well. And like the reactions to Batman having contingencies feels different too. I actually am kind of like conflicted because there's a lot to like about movie versus the book, and there's actually stuff I like more in the movie and there's stuff I like more in the book. Like I think some of the stuff they use against the heroes in the book make more sense, especially with like Wonder Woman. In the movie, they make her hallucinate that she's fighting a bunch of cheetahs and stuff, but like realistically, Wonder Woman would know there's only one cheetah and she wouldn't like keep trying to fight. That doesn't make any sense. But in the book, actually, she's got hit with like a VR thing. She's hallucinating that she's fighting a villain she's never fought before. So she actually has no idea the weaknesses and how much like endurance this villain has because she's never fought that villain before. And I think because of the way she's hit with like kind of a VR kind of viewpoint, it makes it harder for her to like snap out of it. And like the way it is like she's stuck in a VR simulation fighting a villain she's never fought. They're trying to like tire her out to get like a heart attack or something like that. It's kind of the same concept in the movie, but I think the little nuances in the book work a little bit better. Same thing with the Flash. The Flash is actually hit with like a bullet that causes him to have like supersonic seizures like constantly. And I feel like that is way more terrifying than how they did it in the movie with the whole bomb into his bone or whatever. But yeah, there's like a lot of different nuances between the book and the movie. But I think like kind of going through both, you kind of see things you like and things you don't like. Hard for me to pick a favorite. I think probably the movie just because of how streamlined it is. It's kind of easier to digest. But also the Tower of Babel aspect is actually important. In the movie, they got rid of the Tower of Babel title because they completely got rid of the Tower of Babel subplot. But in the book, the reason why it's Tower of Babel, because on top of being attacked with all of these like contingencies, the entire like world is being hit with like some kind of sound wave that is scrambling their ability to like understand speech language and written language. So it's literally like a Tower of Babel. So I thought that was like another layer added to what's happening to them. It makes it more like devastating. So I thought that was actually a pretty cool aspect of it that wasn't in the movie. Once and Future Volume 1. I've been wanting to get this one for a few years and I saw that it was on sale. This is a used version, so that's why it was on sale. But this is really, really interesting. I think also it's really good for just comic book readers who read like Marvel and DC, who have like shifting ideas and timelines on their story. Because as you can tell or might not tell from the title Once and Future, it is a King Arthur type of story, but it's like a modern version of King Arthur where the different versions and prophecies and what stories of King Arthur are actually like important. It's kind of vague. I will say that it's the entire first issue doesn't fully explain things, and they make it a plot point to not explain things. It's kind of like the less you know, the less danger you're in for the characters. In terms of like how it's kind of displayed as if like they're reenacting parts of the King Arthur story in order to create like a true prophecy, but also the different versions of the King Arthur story cause the prophecy to continually shift and stuff. It's pretty interesting. I might continue reading this one. I'm very intrigued about how the story will go. It's very interesting. I am a fan of King Arthur, so that is very cool, but I wonder how they're going to play with the mythos in this. It's hard to tell. But yeah, this was something I've been interested in a while, and I'm glad I got to start reading it because I really like the art, of course, Dan Mora, and the writing is very intriguing. I think the only issue I have is how like it doesn't move at a pace that I would like. It's kind of slow, and it makes the excuse of like, oh, the less you know, the better. And I'm like, I kind of want to know things. But yeah, it was fun nonetheless. DC Finest Batgirl. This was a lot of fun. This was really, really good, actually. I was so surprised how wrapped into this book I got. This is a book compiling issues from Cassandra Cain's first run in 2000. This is only issues 7 through 27. They also have Superboy 85 and Supergirl 63. Which are just two little short stories. It doesn't collect the first 6 issues, and I think it would be good to read the first 6 issues because you get some context in there that I feel like personally is really important to the story and understanding Cassandra Cain. I don't know why the first 6 issues aren't in here. My guess is they want to put it into a DC Finest No Man's Land book, but that hasn't been announced or is coming out, so we don't know yet, but that's probably my guess. But I will say the story that is in here is really, really good. I really enjoy it. There's a lot to love about Cassandra Cain in this. You get to know about her character. Her dynamic with Barbara and Bruce is very much like divorced parents who never got married. Like, I think her relationship with them and their relationship with each other about her is super fun to read. You get a lot of good stuff, especially when Tim Drake shows up and he kind of is a little scared of her. You get a lot of good stuff when Stephanie Brown shows up and she is trying to prove herself. I think the stuff you learn about Cassandra Cain just as a character, not just even about like her lore and stuff, but just like who she is as a person, is super interesting. And you don't get a lot of character studies like this in comics nowadays. And it's just super fun to read it as like every issue feels like an episode of a TV show. I think a lot of comics written around this time were kind of like that. Like each issue was like an episode of a TV show. And you get a lot of story in each issue and it's a lot of fun. This is subtitled Nobody Dies Tonight, and that is kind of the crux of the book. That Cassandra is really trying to save everybody and as much people as she can, like without anybody dying. There even is an issue specifically titled Nobody Dies Tonight in this book, which is a little heart-wrenching once you read it and learn the context. But overall, this book is super, super good. And this is a relatively newer book, this DC Finest, so I don't think you'll have any trouble finding it. I think it's heavily worth it to get this book. She's such a great character, and this run from 2000 is just a really, really good run. Now let's get to this week's haul. We have Detective Comics 575. I was not expecting this to be out or getting it, and I had no idea about it. I know about Year 2, but I don't know the story of Year 2. And I thought it would be interesting to get this reprint of Year 2. I don't know if I'll get the rest. I think this was just fun to get the part 1 of. This issue is kind of silly with him with the gun too. I thought it was cool. I like getting reprints of old comics. I think it's fun to have to a collection. I'm not sort of like a, oh, must get the original kind of guy. I like just having a version of it, you know? Absolute Batman 17. This one is pretty cool. I have not been keeping up with Absolute, mostly because I want to read them in trades, which I have been doing as the trades have been coming out. The volume 2s are starting to come out, and that's kind of where I've left off, like right before volume 2s. But this was the introduction of Poison Ivy, as well as some little more introductions and tidbits from other characters that I will not spoil. I did see the spoilers before I got the book. They were kind of like everywhere, so it's whatever. But I did want to know more about Poison Ivy, so I did grab this. I don't know if I will keep grabbing issues of these Absolute books, but I'm definitely tempted. The stories are starting to get like really good, especially for Wonder Woman and Batman. But since I saw this, I wanted to grab it, and I will try my best to keep reading in trades. Wonder Woman 30, this is by Stephanie Williams. This is finishing off her 2-issue arc. I'm gonna drop Wonder Woman obviously right after this because I don't really interested in reading Tom King Wonder Woman. You know, I wanted to support the 2-issue run, and I got this variant cover, which I thought was really nice. Titans 32, this is supposed to be the follow-up to that DCKO little mini 1-issue thing, The Kids Are All Fight. When I got the variant cover, since I'm not really that bothered about this Titans run, I read the first issue of this Titans run and I did not like it. But there's going to be a new Titans team soon, and I think a new Teen Titans team. I think there's like 2 separate, they're going back to like a 2 separate Titans book thing, with one Titans team and a 1 Teen Titans team. I think that's what's happening. I'll have to see. But yeah, I just wanted to see what's going on with the Titans team after DCKO stuff going on. Nightwing 135. I'm really liking this series by Dan Watters. This is the final issue of this arc, and this is also the final issue with Dexter Soy as the artist, which I'm sad about. I really like his art, and I really like him on Nightwing. He's really good. I'm interested to see how this ends, and the vibe I'm getting is the next arc is really going to be indicative of how Dan Watters wants to do Nightwing. I think there was a lot in this arc that was him kind of setting up stuff, him kind of closing off stuff from previous writers. So I think we're starting to ramp up into what Dan Watters actually wants to do with Nightwing, and it's pretty interesting so far. I like this kind of cosmic horror aspect that he's bringing into Nightwing. It's pretty fun. Deadly Hands of Kunlun. I wanted to get this one as another Marvel book that I was interested in reading, mostly because of Lin Lee up here. You know, I've read Swordmaster, I've read the Agents of Atlas books. I've read his Iron Fist introduction book. I used to main him on Marvel Rivals, but I haven't played in a long time. But that's why I was kind of interested in this book, because he's kind of like one of the title characters here. But I don't know if I will continue with this book, just because I don't know if it's really the vibe I'm looking for. But I figured I would just get the first issue to see how it is, fill it out, and see if I like it or not. But otherwise, I think the first issue, just getting the first issue was okay. Absolute Wonder Woman Volume 2. They're starting to come out with the Volume 2s, as I've said before. And I did really enjoy Absolute Wonder Woman. It was probably my favorite of the Absolute line. So I'm excited about this book and excited more about just Absolute Wonder Woman in general. I think she's a really great character, or version of the character. Really like this. Support Absolute Wonder Woman if you can. It's a really good book. Really good series. This is all we have left of Kelly Thompson because Birds of Prey got canceled, and I'm really sad about that one because I really enjoyed her Birds of Prey book. Batgirl Volume 2. This is part of the current Batgirl run, but I've already read the issues that are in this because I've been following along with the series. I just wanted to get the trade just to put it on the bookshelf. I got Volume 1 when that one came out as well. I think, you know, the series is okay. It's going to go back to Gotham, but I don't know for how long. I think it started out really strong, but I think it's definitely waned a lot since then. But we'll see. Maybe a pickup later down the line. But I still enjoyed it enough to want to get the trade. But yeah, that's everything I read in the last week. That's everything I got for this week. So let me know what you guys have been reading, what you guys think of what I've been reading, what you guys think of my haul. And just let me know what you guys think in general.